Breaking news. Sean P. Diddy Combs has been arrested and indicted on federal charges. The disgraced music icon has faced startling allegations for months of rape, sexual assault.
See, this was the crazy thing to me is like after everybody started exposing this dude, I was thinking to myself, why the fuck isn't this guy in jail? Well,
abuse, gun trafficking, and drug trafficking. On Monday evening, he was indicted by a grand jury in New York. He was taken into custody in Manhattan, where he's been for the last week in anticipation of these charges. Now, the charges haven't been made public just yet. In fact, the indictment was sealed. But according to the New York Times, a person familiar with the prosecution says they believe Diddy faces charges of racketeering and sex trafficking.
Jesus.
Diddy's legal team said they were disappointed with the decision to prosecute, but mentioned their client.
Disappointed. I bet they are. By the way, his legal team isn't disappointed. They're thrilled and ecstatic. Because this means they're going to get paid.
Has been cooperative with law enforcement. A statement from his legal team reads, quote, Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but is not criminal. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with this investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges.
I bet
Please
they did.
reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court.
This is really cool, man. I wish I could get one of these. This thing's badass. Look at that. You can. Maybe I should just buy one of these. What do they get, like 2 gallons to the mile?
All this comes about 6 months after 2 of Diddy's homes were raided by federal investigators back in March. Then we couldn't confirm Diddy was the target of the Homeland Security raids or what information the feds collected. Most of what we know came from the 5 civil suits with a series of shocking allegations ranging.
I mean, like, if you have 1,000 bottles of baby oil in your house, like, I'm not saying, I mean, like, I just, like, who does that? Right? I mean, who does this? That's crazy. Like, I think that's enough. He's guilty. Whatever it is, he did it. No normal person has that much baby oil. No.
From the 90s until now.
That's crazy.
Multiple people allege Diddy raped them, drugged them, and recorded all of that. We can't confirm it just yet, but it was likely those civil lawsuits that led up to the federal investigation and later Diddy's arrest.
Can you imagine if all this stuff ends up being true? This guy's like a fucking, like, menace to society.
Is breaking news that is constantly developing, so stay with Law and Crime for all the latest updates. For now, let's take a look back at the allegations leading up to Diddy's arrest. For the past 3 decades, we've come to know Sean Combs as multiple different names. P. Diddy, Puffy, Puff Daddy, Puff. The 54-year-old is a rapper, entrepreneur, and label exec. Things changed for him on March 25th when Homeland Security raided 2 of his homes, one in California and the other in Florida. There's no word yet whether Diddy himself was the target of those raids, and he's not been charged criminally. That being said, some allegations of his criminal past became a major topic of conversation when news of the raids broke.
That's what was so stunning when Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit earlier this year. It kind of broke the dam, and it was just the floodgates opened and all of these other allegations started to come to the surface.
I feel like this is what happens with everybody, right? Whether it's like Bill Cosby, Epstein, or like some like person in like the internet community. It's like as soon as one person comes out, it's always like the first of many. Yeah, it's never like only one person gets negatively affected. There's like dozens and dozens of people, it seems. Yeah, the floodgates are open, exactly, yeah.
That's Melba Pearson, a former prosecutor who's followed the Diddy case meticulously since it broke. Her interest actually dates back farther than just last month, when Diddy's Bad Boy for Life mantra was just a song. And we know about the allegations now that have happened in the past couple months via these civil suits. But if we go back, I know that you have kind of followed Diddy for a while and you're pretty knowledgeable about that era. From the 90s until now, prior to these civil lawsuits being filed, was there talk of wrongdoing on Diddy's behalf?
There really wasn't. You know, to compare him to R. Kelly, for instance, there were rumors swirling around R. Kelly from the beginning, and that
wasn't he like unofficially dating like a 14-year-old or something like that? Like, because I knew R. Kelly was I knew that he was a problem because, like, I remember, like, this was nuts. So, like, you know how they would do, like, these shows where, like, they do an investigation into, like, some weird person and it's, like, a, you know, an episode of a show? Like, there was a whole season, like, a whole TV series, and it was only dedicated to R. Kelly. How the fuck can you fuck up that many times that you have an entire television season dedicated to just you? That's crazy. Even, like, you know, I don't know, a lot of, like, super popular, like, shooters and gunmen, they still have one episode. With this guy, it's a whole fucking season.
Off with his marriage to a very underage Aaliyah, and that's when folks were like, okay, something doesn't seem right here. But, like, kind of put it to the side, just kind of put a pin in it for a few decades until all the bombshell allegations and, well, ended up being proved in a court of law came forth. I feel like with Diddy, we didn't hear that much. We knew that he partied hard. We knew that he was always going to high profile events and all of that. But I personally have never heard any rumors surrounding any wrongdoing or anything having to do with him. This is an artist who really came to prominence in the 90s. We remember all of the videos. He was very close with Biggie Smalls, who also tragically lost his life back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And so he was somebody who had this whole orbit around him, and so many different artists like Maze and, you know, all these different folks that sprung out from this record label and orbit.
He got Biggie killed.
So he had a huge impact on what R&B and hip hop looked like in the 90s and the 2000s, and continue to be influential today in terms of other artists that have, you know, gained prominence.
Yeah,
and
everybody knows this guy. Yeah,
as well
for sure.
as him as a producer, having this really huge presence in the industry. So absolutely, this is a bombshell, and this is something where the impact is going to be reverberating around the globe for a variety of reasons.
But during this era, Diddy did have some trouble with the law. Back in 1999, he was arrested and charged in a shooting at a New York nightclub. His then-girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez, and rapper Shine were also arrested. J-Lo's charges were dropped, but it was Shine who faced the most serious charges: 3 counts of attempted murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Ultimately, both Diddy and Shine went to trial. Diddy was acquitted, but Shine was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. He was released in 2009 and deported back to his home country of Belize. If we're looking at it in the 1999 lens, or the early 2000s when they went
I didn't even know that.
What was everyone making of it?
What the fuck?
So I think people were not, like, horrified per se. I think
this is all like some old shit.
This was something that was an outcome.
So we've got these allegations that Diddy was responsible as the shooter, but also allegations that J-Lo carried the weapon that Diddy used in the shooting.
All,
what's interesting here is that
like, this is all like way older shit about like what happened. $100 million judgment. Here we go. This should work.
Breaking news tonight, Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul. His attorney tells CNN that he is currently being processed. The charges are unclear as of this moment. Joining us now is CNN's...
They just arrest him for being a freak, man. That's it. That's all it takes.
Entertainment reporter Elizabeth Wagmeister.
He's just a freak, bro. We got to get him.
Chief legal correspondent Ellie Honing. Elizabeth, you were a big part of revealing some details about Diddy's conduct in private over the course of the last couple of months. That video led to a lot more scrutiny on what he has been accused of. What do we know at this point about what this case might ultimately be about?
Abby, at the moment, we don't know what the charges are. I have information that he was arrested tonight at a Manhattan hotel.
There
he
he
is
is.
currently being processed.
Damn, what the fuck? Bro, like, this guy is...
Case might ultimately be about.
Abby, at the moment, we don't know what the charges are.
What the hell?
I have information
This is
that
from
he was arrested
2016?
tonight at a Manhattan hotel. He is currently being processed.
Damn.
I heard from his attorney they are still maintaining his innocence. They said that in anticipation of these charges,
He's not a
that
perfect
Diddy
person.
relocated to New York last week. And here's a statement that I have from his attorney. He says, "We are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we
saw this part.
That video that you just spoke about was a few months ago when our team broke this disturbing video of Diddy violently assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, better known as the singer, her stage name, Cassie. Now, up until this point...
And he just, bro, this guy is on a fucking mission. He's not even wearing any clothes. And he pops the fuck out of his hotel room. Oh my God, look at this.
When we broke this video,
this is
Diddy
savage.
had denied the allegations
Just
against
fucking
him.
throws her down like that. Damn. This is a Patrick Bateman style. Yes. Yeah, he on his way to return some videotapes.
He is one of 10 civil suits against Diddy,
God damn.
9 of which he is accused directly of sexually assault. Up until that video,
kicks it,
he
yes.
denied everything. After that video came out, he changed his tone. He apologized for his conduct in that video.
So he did it.
But I have to tell you, Abby, just as of last week, a former member of Diddy Combs, which was one of the bands from Making the Band, Diddy's show that was on MTV, she sued him for sexual assault and other disturbing allegations, and he denied that. So he continues the denials, and he still maintains his innocence, even though he has been arrested tonight.
And Ellie, not a huge amount of information available tonight, but Elizabeth brought up something that I want you to give us a little bit of insight into.
That's crazy. Dude's a menace,
is here in New York, in Manhattan. He apparently came here in anticipation that something like this might happen.
Yeah, I bet.
What should we understand about what that might mean? It could very well be that this is a federal arrest being processed here in New York.
So, Abby, there are some important things we do not know, including the specific charges that have been lodged against Sean Combs. But there are some really important things we do know. First of all, based on the attorney's statement, based on our reporting, this is a federal prosecution. It's not a state prosecution. The fact that he's being processed in Manhattan tells me that's the Southern District of New York. That's consistent with the reporting that the Southern District of New York had been handling this case. That's the office I used to work at. That's an office that sort of specializes in high-stakes cases. Just in the last year or so, Southern District of New York, just as an example, has successfully prosecuted Sam Bankman-Fried, Senator Robert Menendez.
Oh, boy.
The other thing that we do know is a grand jury has indicted Sean Combs, meaning they found probable cause that he committed at least one federal crime. Now, as to what happens next, there will be, likely tomorrow or within the next couple days, but usually in the SDNY, you try to do it the next day, there will be an arraignment, meaning Sean Combs will appear in court with his lawyers. There are no cameras in federal court. He will be advised of the charges against him, and he will almost certainly enter a not guilty plea. But the key thing to watch for is then we'll have the question of bail. Will prosecutors agree to let him out on bail? Will prosecutors ask the judge to lock him up pending trial? That could end up in a contentious argument. So these are things that are going to play out over the next 24 or 48 hours. And finally, Abby, with respect to the charges themselves, it's important to note, we've all seen that video, but assault and sexual assault are not federal crimes. Those are prosecuted in state court. So
what about human trafficking, though?
What I expect to see when we see this indictment is some sort of crime with some element of organization to it, sex trafficking, something along those lines, if it's based on some of the allegations we've heard.
And of course, back in March, his homes in LA and in Miami were raided. All of this leading up to this moment. Elizabeth and Ellie, a lot more to this story will be coming up in the coming days and weeks.
Crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy.